righty, hang on. So, okay, there we go. And we are live. Then we're just going to wait to go live on the Instagram and we'll kick it off. So, Pam, Little Savage, Hodder, welcome to Coffee and Conversation with Champions. You know the drill. It's not your first time here. And I think you're actually responsible for getting a lot of people on this podcast, whether they liked it or not.
Um, some, but I wouldn't say a lot. But yeah, a few friends,
A
and a
fair
few friends
number.
that have traveled just last year with Master Worlds and Commonwealths that were down there. So
Yeah, it was so cool. And unfortunately, I really didn't get a chance to come and hang out with you guys because announcing 2 platforms nonstop, that was a intense
Mm.
10 days. I mean, I'm not saying it was intense because it was actually in a tent, but it was that a bad enough joke, huh? It was pretty intense.
Yeah, trying to announce 2 platforms when they're going simultaneously, that's a tough job.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun, and I hope I did okay because eventually it was just like left platform, right platform, bar loaded, left. You go, move. No.
Yeah. Loaded on 1, loaded on 2.
Loaded on 1, loaded on 2. So speaking of masters, you guys are going to be sending a team down to Cape Town, I take it, this year?
Believe there will be a team this year. I'm not sure exactly who's on the team. I think it won't be till potentially June when the team is announced.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, I think there's quite a few lifters from, Alberta, but from Canada that will be going. Yeah.
Going through. Can't wait to take you guys for a swim in Camps Bay. Let you feel some really cold water.
Yeah. I won't be going. I didn't do 3 lift. But after Sam and I, when we left Sun City in 2023 Bench Worlds, we did fly over to Cape Town and we spent a few days there. And we were just right on Camps Beach. So it was really nice.
Oh, epic. Okay. Listen, I grew up there. It's not a bad spot, huh?
No, definitely not.
Crazy. So how have you been? I mean, there's a lot been going on in Alberta with the comps and prep and work. So fill us in. How have you been and how's the powerlifting been going?
Ooh, how have I been? I would say competitively, things have been going really well. Bench Worlds last year, silver and classic and equipped, and benched my first 2 red plates and equipped. So that was super exciting to hit 125.
Sure.
Because to me, that's like a milestone when you get 2 reds.
Yeah.
And that. And then I went on to our national championships, which had been moved to the fall. It's now back in like February, March timeline. But I hit 132.5, and that was the 3rd I tried to do at Bench Worlds last year, failed it. And, to go 4 months later into it moved. Like I was really surprised. Like I'd already was a qualifier for this year's Bench Worlds. So I'd already secured it on my 2nd attempt. So it was kind of like, all right, let's go have some fun. And so we reloaded the 132.5 and it moved. So it was good. It was good to hit it. I was expecting it maybe this year, but yeah, no, it was good.
Epic.
Training wise, like I say, it's going really well. I am cutting down to 69 now. I'm almost there. But yet with the volume and the weight I'm moving, things are just going really well. So I haven't lost strength, which is nice. Been dealing with an injury though. So that's kind of been ongoing since the fall of 2023 on and off. I have a disc that gets a little angry. And so every few months I'm out and barely walking, and then it's kind of rehabbing back. But this January was probably the worst it's ever been. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't sit, couldn't sleep, couldn't roll myself over, couldn't walk. And so it's been now almost 13 weeks. So I think it's more so they're saying, I think it's piriformis is pinched right now. Because I was so lopsided. So with the disc, one hip was up here, the other was down here. My back, I looked like I was curved and tilted. And just a week after, everything on my right side of the body just locked up. All my muscles just clenched. So then of course it pinched the nerve. And so I've just been dealing with a lot of nerve pain, not able to get my feet down for bench. So I had to use a 20-centimeter foot block, and I've gradually moved now. Yeah, I call it the frog because it's hilarious to see. But I did get to our nationals end of February. I did have to use the 20 centimeter block for raw.
Mm,
And by
mm.
the end of the week, I was able to get down to a 10 for equipped, which was better for leg drive.
Yeah.
And that helped because when your knees are higher than the rest of you, you're not getting a lot of leg drive out of
No.
it. So it was quite comical, but it got me there. I wasn't going to give up. I was going to fight through and do what I could, whether it's, half of what I can bench before, but my strength kind of stayed and managed to, still bench 92.5, which was just 5 kilos under my best
Okay.
for comp. And then 125 I did on my third. I almost bombed on equipped, but I managed to get out of my third. It was a bit of a grind, stressful, but we
Okay.
got it. So it was
Right.
good. And I got to stand on the podium with a couple of friends. So yeah, it was fun.
And that's the absolute
But things are
best,
getting
right?
better. I'm down to a 5 centimeter now.
Okay.
Um, I bench equipped last weekend, 135.5. So we'll see where things are going. And I still got 6 weeks. So I'm super excited.
Sure. That's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. You're talking about an injury, and I've been dealing with that's as far down as the hand goes, and that's as far up as it
Mhm.
goes, versus high. So,
Yeah, the mobility is not
yeah.
there.
I think this was from Hong Kong when I worked with the spotting and loading team, just doing the one rack. So, but
Mhm.
I'll blame that. But it's you sort of start to value weights again when you're injured. Like I was chuffed to get a 92.5 at nationals at bench. Yeah, and like that was kind of fun. So yeah, I feel your pain. But the one thing I love about chatting to you, Pam, just I have to say this is like your focus, your drive, your determination doesn't matter what's going on. You get the job done, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, and I feel like this injury really set a little fire of, I had already had things booked and paid for Worlds, for Bench Worlds coming
Mm,
up in May. I was like, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna do everything I possibly can. So I've done so much chiro, so much massage, rehab, and just getting back in the gym was a huge thing.
yeah,
And getting back because I found it really helped with mobility. And I think that's one of the big part of where I am right now is because I didn't just stay at home and do stuff and not go lift, but I actually got back and I got back on the bench. Started doing some deadlifts again. So back is feeling good. It's just still the nerve pain. I still have pins and needles that will rush down from my glute to my
mm,
foot
mm,
if I stand or walk too long. Doesn't like being an extension, just prefers to just be in flexion so you don't have that pressure on the nerve. So hopefully, I'll get to enjoy Norway.
yeah.
Fingers crossed to be able to walk around and actually see some things, but it's still a struggle. So I can still train. But yeah, walking any distance, it gets challenging right now still.
So I have to ask you a completely arbitrary question. Because being Canadian, going to Sweden as a South African, I just ate salmon at every meal, and I'd pop into the supermarket and buy. Like, is it a big thing for you as well to go and get some salmon, or you got enough where you are?
I don't know what I want for food. I mean, I'm a huge red meat eater, so
Okay. Ah,
but I grew up
excellent.
on the east coast of Canada,
Okay.
so seafood was a big thing with the diet with
Yeah.
cod and salmon and everything else. So I'm good with pretty much anything. It's just as
Meat is
long as I
better.
get good food.
Yeah, 100%. So let's chat about worlds
Yeah.
now. The prep done, going. How are you feeling?
Prep is going really well. Um, you know, 90 was just kind of a last heavy warm up before hopping in the shirt on Saturday, and it was probably the fastest it ever moved. And then the
Awesome.
next day, I had some board work and stuff to do raw, and I just loaded 90 beforehand for as the last warm up before I had 95 at boards and with one board. And yeah, it was super fast, right? And just 95 at one board. It's something I never done before, but I'm doing sets of four. And
Wow.
so, the strength is going up, the body weight's going down, and yeah, I'm really excited now for Worlds. Back with the injury in January, not knowing where things were gonna go, was I gonna get there? Was this, you start going that rabbit hole of, okay, I think I'm done. Right. So
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of proving that, pushing through, right? And that mindset. But like I say,
Yeah.
yeah, it lit that fire and
Your mind
yeah,
is
I've made a
strong,
lot of
dude.
changes,
Yeah.
diet, health,
Mm.
getting in better shape, cutting the next weight class because I always wanted to try and get down to 69.
Okay.
And I'm sitting at I think 70.6 right now. So which is huge, probably the lightest weight I've been in 10 years.
Hmm.
So super excited. Yeah. So I'm pretty pumped for Worlds, and we have all the same team going. So, it's just going to be another, super fun time of everyone getting together and hanging out. And so it should be really good.
That's going to be awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the team for the guys who may not know? Who's going? Who you're looking forward to traveling with? Who's the most fun to travel with? Is it Sam? Brian's taking his abs, obviously. You know,
What did you say about Brian?
Brian's taking his abs, obviously, and
Yes.
he's going to go work
Still
at a
puts us all to
laundry.
shame, but I'm working
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
I'm trying to catch up.
He's going to
No,
volunteer at a
Sam and Brian.
laundry
I
for
mean, Sam and
washes. Yeah.
Brian.
Yep. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so Sam and Brian, I mean, they're definitely like two travel buddies that, we always have so much fun together. Mimi, it's just a
Mm.
huge group of, especially because Alberta has so many ventures, and
Yeah.
we are a really tight knit community here. And we know everyone else from Canada from the regional national comps, but you can definitely tell like the Alberta crowd, like how much we are just that little tight knit group. And it's super fun that, every year we are going off, we are traveling together and competing together. And yeah, it's just awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, just to hang out with you guys, like, was one of my highlights in 2023. Crikey, that was a while.
Mhm.
Time is flying, but
I
it's
know it's hard to
absolutely,
think it's almost 2 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
wow, it's crazy. And but just it's a great bunch, and with Mimi and with all of the guys, it's a blast. Sure, Mimi's going to be taking her cameras as well, getting some awesome photos of
Mhm.
you guys. So when do you guys leave? 'Cause I had the calendar open a minute ago, and then I don't know what I've done with it. So when are you guys planning sort of on getting there? It's starting like beginning of May, if I'm not mistaken.
I
There it
think,
is.
well, I'm flying on the 15th,
Yep.
and I think the rest of us, we're all around the same time period.
Okay.
Brian and I would compete on the first day. I
On
think it
the
was the third
17th.
session of the first day. So
Mm,
we'll get there on the 16th, compete on the 18th, and then we've
okay.
got a little break in between while I do for equipped.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're all around the same time. We're pretty much gonna be there all full week, which would be nice.
So I've got to be in South Africa on the 20th of May. So I'm trying to work plans. I come for the first
Oh, okay. So I know I asked
couple
you
of
before
days.
if you were gonna try and
Yeah.
make it up. Well, hope you do.
Yeah.
Be fun to see you.
That will be absolutely wonderful to see you guys. It's like I was
Mhm.
planning on coming, and then I got told earlier this week that one of our biggest corporates is having a wellness day, and we need to be there. I've got to be there, so that's the 20th of May. But if I can either try and come,
Mhm.
like for the first 2 days and be back, we'll make a plan. We'll make a plan because it'll be a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I mean, the flights from South Africa, which I was quite surprised about on Ethiopian Airways, they're about 12,000 rand. So we'll get sponsors for the podcast and stuff. So that's like what,
Mhm.
about $600, which is really not bad.
Yeah.
So which will be
No,
fun.
that isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. When you think of the distance you're traveling, because you'll probably go through Amsterdam,
Yeah.
right?
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I think straight to Addis Ababa, and then yeah, I think it is to Schiphol. You're right, 100%. And then sure.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it'll be a long flight, but it'll be a fun one. Um,
Yeah, exactly. With a good crowd on the other side.
one the best crowd on the other side. So let's chat a little bit about what's happened over the last 2 years. How's powerlifting going? Your nationals, and I think that's when we started chatting about getting you back on. It was just off the hook. I mean, to see the podium and the stand and just the lighting and that vibe and the stream, it was
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. How's powerlifting been in Alberta, and how's it been in Canada?
I mean, it's still growing. Just trying to keep up and have enough meets. So many lifters are qualifying for nationals. So now it's a question of, our nationals are getting really pretty big right now. So it's trying to manage when you're on the executive side of trying to manage,
Mm,
what's sustainable, what can we do, things like that. But Alberta, our meets are still selling out within minutes. And, we have wait lists of like 40 people who've never competed before trying to get into a meet. And doing a trial run with a meet in 2 weeks' time. So we opened it up just to first time lifters initially,
oh,
and
awesome.
then
That
said,
is so
okay, on this date, if we still have spaces, we'll
let you
let,
go.
some of the other lifters that have competed before sign
Right.
up. It's just to try and help and get some people through so then they qualify for provincials because it's very cutthroat. You open registration and within 3, 4 minutes, it's sold out. And our provincials is growing,
Yeah.
every year it's just getting bigger. Same
Yeah.
thing with regionals and nationals. So it's really positive. I mean, you're seeing that sport grow. And you're seeing so many more lifters. Our teams are getting bigger. We had the biggest equipped team go to Iceland last year,
Wow.
which was amazing. And so you're seeing the equipped start to boom. And I got Brian into a shirt. So he qualified. We got him qualified, did his first nationals. So
Oh,
he's done
wow.
equipped. He's
Okay.
broken his provincial record 3 times now.
Okay.
So very proud of him. So, I mean,
Fantastic.
I'm not a coach, but I managed to get him through.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Managed to. So, but yeah, he's addicted to now. He really enjoys it. So
Yeah.
it'll be super fun to get the train together and that. So it's good.
Oh, that's absolutely phenomenal. What do you think is driving the growth, just the growth of the sport in Alberta and in Canada?
I think globally it's because of social media
Mm,
and the exposure that the sport has now. And you have the big name lifters, and then you have Sheffield, and it's that hype, that bill, and yeah, I really think that that's what's bringing people into the sport, and it's all ages, of course, right?
yeah.
We're still seeing our youth division grow. We're seeing more sub juniors. I had a sub junior who competed 2 weeks ago, and he already unofficially broke the national record for a sub junior 83 in Canada.
How much?
With he's 83, benched 158, and that was not even pushing it. So I'm super excited. I was on the phone with his dad this morning trying to give him
Wow.
a little bit of understanding of like what the competition pathway would be. And I was like, okay, well, he hasn't done a 3 lift comp yet, but we can get him to regionals. He's qualified for nationals. He can go to Poland in 2026, potentially qualify for Team Canada.
Mm,
I said, that is a really good pathway, to get him super excited of this is a really good end goal because I really think this kid could do it.
sure.
But yeah, so apparently in the gym, his dad said he's already done 170. So just a very strong sub junior. So super excited to see like the youth people coming in, and then these are the ones you're going to see that are going to grow in the sport that eventually could be the open lifters that you're seeing on the teams. And so yeah, super excited when I see things like this and the kids coming through.
I think social media does definitely have a huge drive and it's a huge factor. But that being said, you guys you've got such a passionate team behind the admin team behind the sport that are driving it and putting in that effort and that energy. Where do you think that drive for you guys, the one making everything happen, comes from? What's fueling you?
Big thing for me is community, right? It's that camaraderie. Everyone supporting everyone. Um, it was just our provincials last year. I had a media team just kind of interview some lifters, and we're still doing like edits and working on stuff. But almost everyone that was interviewed, the common word was community that came out of
Yeah.
it. And I think that's one of the biggest things about this sport. And, I've made friends that I keep in touch with, they're in Sweden, US or just all over, and it doesn't matter. And then, yeah, it's just, I don't know, there's something about even when everyone just comes together, it's a sense of belonging. It's so much support. Everyone is just, pushing everyone, and so, yeah, yeah.
It's epic. No, 100%. It's just it is that
Right.
community, and I think the sense I get from listening to you, community is so valuable, and we've gone
Yeah.
through an experience a few years ago of losing that and not having that. It's definitely something that's worthwhile fighting for,
Mhm.
and people deserve to be part of it. They deserve to be
Yeah.
part of amazing community. Next year, you guys are hosting Commonwealth. It's in Canada, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it's in Winnipeg,
Egg.
Manitoba.
So yeah, but so
Yeah,
you know
September of 2026.
6, yeah.
Yeah.
So there, I was chatting to Richard on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about, and I've told him that that's one of my missions that I'm taking on now. There are countries that are part of the Commonwealth that are not part of IPF and are not putting teams
Mm.
forward to come to Canada. If you were to speak to these countries or to their leadership or just to the people within that country, what would you say about getting involved in the IPF, getting involved in Commonwealth? and growing powerlifting in your country, in their country, what's the benefit of this amazing sport of ours? I mean, we're speaking about it, so I suppose it's a bit of a silly question, but yeah, like,
You're throwing a hard question out here.
yeah, why should they bloody well get on board and come and lift?
You mean so in general of getting them on board with the IPF to then
IPF and,
compete with
Commonwealth,
Commonwealths?
yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, I think it's just like competing anywhere, right? When you bring in your lifters and they come into that community, right? More opportunities, more competition level. Gosh,
It's a tough. I'm not going to hit you with the easy questions. Come on.
no, I know.
Uh,
Um, Gosh, I think it's a standard of competition
mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
Of what you see coming from countries and what you see internationally when you compare, different federations and that. It's definitely it's that higher standard, that higher bar. There's definitely, with the roughing, with the rules, everything, it's yeah, it's I don't know, you're giving me tongue tied.
No, but I suppose, and also,
Hard one.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
the tough one, but you capable of this is not a problem. I'm going to get such a punch from you when you see me. I'm in so much trouble. How can you throw me under the bus like that? But I think the question for me, it's about the fact, and you hit the nail on the head. The standard of competition and the level of competition is that which you would find at World Games, at Worlds. I dare to say the
Exactly.
Olympics. I mean, I love what Gary Williams said about about powerlifting. He says powerlifting's the cake. Getting into the Olympics would be the icing. So he's
Yeah,
saying that we've reached such a high standard already. But if you don't, as a country, have the infrastructure and the network and the clubs and the coaching, but you have athletes who can meet the standards and they come out and even come last. For an athlete to travel into and come last, it will be the best experience of their life because the love and care and
absolutely.
support, and you will have powerlifters jumping on them to help them help their coaches, and I think that's why I think the sport is so
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Yeah.
absolutely. So there's another reason I need to come and visit for Commonwealth as well.
So you're gonna come for Commonwealth? Okay, that means
Yeah,
I have to go to Winnipeg.
but you got to come to Winnipeg. Come on, obviously you have to come to Winnipeg. But okay, I might get roped into doing announcing. We'll see. But I do want a little
Yeah.
bit of downtime to come and see Canada. So to isn't there a
Even if
big
you set up
mall
a
there?
podcast,
Huh? No, yeah. That's so.
we'll get you set up with the podcast.
I've got to bring my podcast gear now for World Bench. So I'm making,
Mhm.
and I actually have a meeting with my corporate client. I get excited tomorrow, so we'll see what I can do. But absolutely, because it's about sharing the sport. I've got to tell you, Pam, we got approached by a couple of young lifters at nationals, and one or two in messaging beforehand, and the guys said to me, "Sure, like young guys." That they got into powerlifting because they happened to be on YouTube and found the live stream and the energy
Oh,
and
wow.
the atmosphere and the vibe. That's what got them into powerlifting. And they're now competing at nationals for the first time or for the second time. So that
That's awesome.
means the absolute world to us. Yeah, it's really, really cool. I think I'm chatting to one
Mhm.
of them tomorrow as well. And by the way, thanks to you, I'm chatting to is it Ria
Oh,
on
Rhea?
yeah
Awesome.
on
Well, that's great.
Tuesday at 6 o'clock my time, so like 2.5 hours
You
earlier
do
than
call her
now.
the GOAT.
The-
She's one incredible athlete who has been lifting since she was 14,
wow,
like over 20 years. Still amazing to watch, and her performance at, every competition, biggest bench, I think it was, I don't know if she's 229 equipped now,
sure,
but just unreal, what, what she is capable of. And,
yeah,
I don't even think she's even peaked yet.
yeah,
So it's gonna be super exciting to see her World Games in August. I know we'll all be cheering and supporting her, and same with the other members. We have a couple other Canadians that made the team for World Games as well.
right.
So yeah, super excited
Have
for
you got any
everyone.
of your Alberta athletes going, your lifters?
Not for World Games, no,
Okay,
no. I don't think. I'd have to double check.
Getting Pam into
That's the
trouble.
thing is the teams are getting
Yeah.
so big now,
Yeah.
trying to keep track of who's qualified, and then you have so many international comps between bench worlds and open and juniors, and then you've got the North American
Mm, mm.
regionals, with those comps, and then masters, and then open equipped, and you're like, okay, trying to keep track of it is quite challenging. But yeah, I think they have a couple of people that have qualified for World Games this year, which is really exciting.
It's going to be epic. And chatting to Gary Williams, he's been invited to do the announcing, so that's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And we booked a podcast with him when he's there, which we're really honored about. So it's going to be something very special. How do you manage the growth in the sport as from the administrator side? And sort of you talk about, first come, first serve, basically trying for nationals. At the moment, I think we had 240 athletes at nationals this year, and we were happy about it. It was a little bit less than last year. But how do you sort of find that balance and still keep people in the sport, in the federation, if they don't have an opportunity to compete?
So for our nationals is like a qualifying QT.
Mm,
So say a first time lifter going through, they're going to do a local meet,
mm, mm.
provincials, compete at the Canada Powerlifting regional championships,
Okay.
and then could get the QT for nationals. So I think just our nationals, how many do we have? 700 and some odd lifters. I mean, nowhere near like some other countries, but it's still quite substantial. It still takes us, 7 days to go through the comp when you're running like two platforms. So
Wow.
it's still,
Yeah.
extremely busy. But yeah, I mean, there's challenges with it, do we have enough referees? Do we have, can we have enough volunteers? How many days do we want nationals to run? So there's questions. And I think, we're all trying to work together, all the provincial bodies, affiliates with Canada Powerlifting, and everyone's trying to figure out, what's our best path forward with the growth of the sport. What do we want to maintain?
Mm,
What's fair to everyone, the athletes. You don't want people held back, but can you sustain the numbers that we presently have? So there's challenges, with the growth, and I think in Alberta we have growth challenges as well, right? Our provincials are running into, we need to at least have a venue for 4 days, right?
wow.
1 day for setup and 3 days of running a dual platform because our provincials are hitting 300.
What?
Um,
Wow.
yes, 2 years in a row, I've had close to 300
Hey?
lifters
Oh,
just at a
fantastic.
provincial
Well
championships.
done.
And I think this year Sam is hosting with a couple other members. I God love her. I don't have to run provincials this year. She's taken it on. She is an
You're
absolute
talking
saint.
about the birthday girl, right?
Yes, Sam just had a birthday.
Hey. Happy birthday, Sam.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this year it's going to be another big provincials. Same thing, dual
Mm,
platform,
mm,
probably
sure.
looking close to 300 lifters. So
Wow.
it'll be 3 days of lifting to get through it. But I mean, they've got a good support team. There's four of them that are organizing as meet directors, so that's good. Kind of disperses the workload for trying to get everything organized. And there's a group of volunteers. Everyone's like, we're going up to help with setup. We'll be there, right? So they have a good group behind them. So I think it will be a really good cross this year.
Oh, epic. It's going to be phenomenal. How do you sort of choose between sort of 1 day or 3 days, 4 days, one platform, multiple platforms? Has it got to the stage where now the sort of the numbers are dictating, the number of platforms?
Yeah, right. When you start getting, up to that 250, 225 number of lifters, and you think, okay, how many days? And you think each session, okay, well, I've got 56, if I
Mm,
do, well, one session, I guess two platforms, you got 56 lifters if you're running two platforms for one session, right? So then it's kind of dictating your numbers. You wonder, okay, can I get away with one?
yeah.
Can I get away just one platform? And then you go, no,
Oh. One
it's
platform,
not
one
going to
more
work.
day.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's
And there's
every.
some sessions
Mm,
that you may only run one
yeah.
platform because you don't need to have two, but the majority of it to be able to get through the numbers and to get as many lifters competed over such a short, couple days. Yeah, we have to run two.
Right. No, it just, and also people need to understand, those in the community do, but those perhaps watching don't. Everybody's there as a volunteer.
100%.
You know, so
We're 100% volunteer
mm,
run, right from, um, everyone who's spotting and loading, who's on the score table, who's there for setup and tear down. People that, are doing like even just a floating job of helping keep the venue clean and resetting everything for the next day because, you're running multiple
yeah,
days. Could be people in the back warm-up room using vacuums, cleaning off platforms, and it's, right up to, our executive level. We're all volunteers,
yeah,
right?
and all doing
We do
everything.
it, we love the sport.
Mm.
It's growing and we're trying to, do everything we can to grow with it and make it sustainable for years to come. And that's kind of been my goal as an executive is just finding little gaps, little things that are coming up, and create, how can we fix this? How can we make this better? And so it's been a fun couple of years.
100%. And it's going to be a fun few more for sure.
It is election year this year, so I most likely will put my name in for nomination again. I've got some goals and things that I'm working on that
Hmm.
I don't want to walk away from,
Yeah.
and hopefully, see them through. And so hopefully another 2 years, and then we'll see from there.
Well, the proof of the pudding's been in what's been happening now. You talk about 3 years, or the last 2 years with over 300 lifters. I mean, that's absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. So two questions, I suppose one does flow into the other. Where would you like you getting elected now the next 2 years? Is there anything that you can talk about? Sort of 2 to 5 years out, what you would like to see for powerlifting in Alberta, maybe for powerlifting within Canada, maybe worldwide, but I think just sort of within your province.
Within Alberta, we'll be definitely trying to see if we can get some more meet directors and more referees.
Hmm.
The past few years, we did have a little issue with like retention of referees. I think, we've got a good group that's come through now. We've certified a lot of provincial refs in the last 2 years.
Awesome.
So I really hope they seem pretty dedicated. They, come back, after their exam and been at all their meets. We've got some refs now getting their national level, which is great as well. So yeah, it's meet directors, having enough referees and officials so we're not burning them out to where we can get more meets in Alberta. We do have some months of the year where, it's kind of pretty quiet. Summertime, we don't really have meets in the summer.
Mm-mm.
But like I say, I was talking to the gentleman this morning about his son, and we're trying to look at, a competition pathway for him to get into 3 lift to actually compete. And it's like I say, it's so cutthroat. Um, you know, how can we get more meets on the calendar to continue to grow the sport, improving communication with lifters, different things of, what's upcoming, making sure, everyone hits their volunteer requirements to go back to nationals if they've been there before, and
Right.
building a new website and, things, anything that we can to kind of help, get
Okay.
information out to lifters and the community, try and get more meets. Yeah,
I
I
suppose
think
that's
that's
really
kind of the big things right
yeah.
now.
But I mean, and those are the basics, right? Communication and competitions. I've got a question that I
Mhm.
want to give to you quickly from one of the viewers, and then I'll go back to my other question. So it's from
Okay.
RID1 dot lifts, and it asks, how recognized is powerlifting in Canada for student athletes? Can students get scholarships based on powerlifting? So I'm going to assume that's for high school or for college.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not aware of like any scholarship programs or anything that for powerlifting in Canada. We're still looking at, and I know they've applied to be recognized as a national sporting organization.
Okay.
So, still waiting to hear back from that for approval. Not sure exactly how long that would take with that process. But I know that's something for the past couple of years that Canada Powerlifting has been striving to get. I think with that, then it opens up a lot more doors for funding that for the sport in Canada between, the Canada Powerlifting and then, down with the provinces. Um, but a lot of lifters, it's, getting sponsorships through certain companies like SBD
Yeah.
or you have A7. There's, locally we have Strong Arm Sport, which has a lot of Titan for especially for those equipped lifters. Um, but yeah, or like there's, certain clothing companies and that are out there as well. That's had a lot of lifters, they kind of help fund, their
Um,
competitions and being able to travel and things like that. But really, I mean, we are out of pocket. You're paying to travel to meets, and the flights, the hotels, the entry fees.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there really isn't much right now what's out there for specifically to powerlifting
Mm-hmm.
as for like a sponsorship or scholarship wise for the sport, especially for the youth.
So, if, on that point, is there anyone that you know has been supporting the athletes and the coaches that you'd like to give a shout out to? You mentioned some clothing companies, any brands that you'd just,
Well,
with that.
big thing you see SBD Canada,
Yeah.
they're a huge supporter, of course, with our junior and our open team.
Yeah.
So I've saw, just some lifters from nationals that competed, they've just, getting their sponsorships now, with SBD and their partnerships with them. So it's super exciting for those lifters. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the big one I think right now in
Mm-hmm.
Canada is, when you get that SBD sponsorship, it's
Game
the big
changer.
milestone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're doing an absolutely amazing job. What I want
Mhm.
to do, and I suppose, again, this is why we're doing this. And it's quite crazy to think that it's been nearly 2 years. And you guys were one of the first, on my little table after fighting with Dr. Ip that she took my table. I had to move my table and setting up with the microphones and, like just, it's quite crazy that we sort of come and get to do this. So it means a lot for me to be chatting to you as well, Pam. It's very, very cool. What I wanted to ask you is what can you share from your experience on the executive that you feel other federations, maybe smaller federations, federations that are struggling? You mentioned social media being a big drive, and then obviously communication, referee development, absolutely vital. And it's sort of, I chuckle when you said referee development and the refs staying in it, because then people understand how difficult it is to be a referee and to go and do weigh-ins and equipment checks, and then you still have to go and work for the full thing. People don't take that into account, and you might be doing that 3 times in a day. So, what advice do you have or recommendations for other federations, maybe that, or countries that are struggling to grow? Rather, let me say that. What's worked for you
Oh
guys?
boy. So from a executive standpoint,
Hmm.
like in that role or
Yeah.
just in general for the sport?
So I think, I mean, well, let's look at
I
both.
think when you get involved, pardon?
We can look at both. Yeah. So from an executive
Yeah.
standpoint.
Um, I'll do executive after. So
Hmm.
me, I think when you become more involved in the sport, it's going to make you a better lifter and a better competitor. You have a better understanding of the rules. You appreciate meets more and the amount of work that goes into them when those meet directors are, almost doing a second full-time job, right? Because, we're volunteers, we have careers, people going to school, and this is something, we do on our side, right? Because we love the sport. We want to give back. We want to see it grow. So yeah, definitely getting involved. It could be just coming in and understanding how a meet is actually set up on the day before setup,
Hmm.
right? Maybe you're not spotting and loading. I don't spot and load because I'm too short. Especially when you get someone super tall, I'm not gonna be very good with my hands up here.
Listen, look at no,
So,
my
or learning the
shoulder with
score
that.
table because when you understand, pardon,
My shoulder when you're trying to
you can't do
crank
that.
it.
Yeah, you can't do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, 100%. All right,
Yeah.
squat.
So I mean, there's always something you can do,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter. Like you don't have to be able to someone to spot and load,
Mm,
right? There's the table, the score table, learning that, which is huge.
yeah.
Almost ended up on the score table on Worlds.
Oh,
I
wow.
managed to escape.
Sort of
I was
helping
very
out for
close.
Heather.
I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna leave now.
Okay.
I don't need that stress.
I'm gonna mention. I'm gonna
But
mention that
because yeah, they
next
were
time we're
short, they
here.
needed someone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but you learn so much about the sport, and I think it definitely it makes you a better
Mm,
athlete, especially if you're still competitive.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I say, meets don't run without volunteers. It doesn't run without the community coming together. You're not going to have a spotter and loader. You're not going to have someone who's going to put your attempts in. You're not, no one who built the platform that you're standing on, who
Yeah.
brought the equipment into the venue. It has to be everyone coming together. And that's how we keep our sport going and we keep it growing. And especially with the young lifters coming in, they haven't been around, they may not know, like, okay, this is how it works, this is how it goes. So we usually see them catching on,
Yeah.
right? And getting a better understanding as they're getting a little bit older too. But yeah, executive level, I think it's staying connected with the community, listening to the community. What are our challenges? How can we fix it? How can we make it better for everyone? Um, and that's, I guess, myself and my board. Sam is on the board with me as well, and we have Brian Krastoff and Chantal
Mm-hmm.
Schetz. Yeah, it's just trying to do the best we can. I mean, we're not perfect. We do have lives outside of, we are volunteers, and we're trying to do, the best we can with the resources and the time that we have. But yeah, it's, we all love the sport. And, we've all been to that international level, so we can bring down our knowledge and what we have from that as well, and our experiences, and pass it on. But yeah, staying connected with the community. Like,
Mm.
I'll bounce around sometimes at different gyms, or I'm usually at almost every meet. And it's just, just connecting with the lifters and the new lifters, and that, and just trying to keep it growing, keep everyone informed of what's going on. I think I like the kind of open book kind of policy, or you want to say that, like, I'll be honest and I'll tell the truth, unless it's something maybe I can't disclose right
Mm.
away,
Mm.
or things like that. But it's not hiding anything. It's I want everyone to know what's going on, to be informed of what's happening with the sport, their changes that are coming through. And yeah, it's just staying connected with everyone.
Try that's a huge thing. Listening to the lifting community, listening to the lifters, and staying connected to them. I mean, that's really, really great advice, and it's from just spending time with you and the guys. Like, there's no ego. It's the sport first, and
No,
it's passion
no.
about the sport. The sport, you here to serve the sport, not the other way around. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's really great advice, and that it may be challenging for some of the other federations, maybe in other countries that are struggling, where it's been people that have been in that role for a very long time and are not willing to let go and to grow, and they feel that it
Hmm.
owes them something. That's very damaging. We need to definitely move past that. We had another question from the viewer, and I'd like to share it with you to get your thoughts. If powerlifting becomes an Olympic sport, will all those doors open then? So I think will there be the opportunity? So I suppose it's looking at sponsorship for Olympic level athletes. Is that something, do you think we would be able to expect in powerlifting if it became an Olympic sport?
Well, potentially, I think, I don't know if you have to look at, I guess, maybe how Olympic lifting,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, when you're with them being involved as Olympic sport, how, what do those athletes receive or get, or yeah. And then the question, I guess Olympic wise, is it just the open category? Does it inclusive of all the ages? Is it right? I mean, that's
Mm.
something left to be seen, and if it does happen. But I think definitely it would probably open up doors for sponsorships for athletes that are at that level. What would they be? Maybe they're private, like people, have Nike sponsorships and things like that,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know, but with the growth of sport and the amount of exposure we have, I think it's definitely, there's opportunities, and I guess we just need to see how it plays out in the coming years.
Hmm.
So, if we get that status of recognition as with the IOC, and then we go from there.
My sense, and I love your answer. I don't want I might get into trouble with this, but I think by the time that happens, powerlifting is going to be at such a strong level and strong position internationally. I think we're going to be very shortly, and hopefully this is what we're trying to do with this channel, with this show, is let athletes become a little bit of a celebrity in whatever region, because we
Mhm.
don't need it helps, but I think we're going to get to the point where we don't need Olympic recognition in order for athletes to get sponsorship to help with their lifting. I think
Oh, yeah.
the community is strong enough. And again, if you look at what SBD is doing,
Mhm.
maybe the Olympics
Yes.
will ask to get into into Sheffield. It'll be the other way around.
Hmm.
But I really think that the community is so strong. The guys involved in the sport are so strong that sponsorship is going to start to come up on smaller levels in so many different places
Hmm.
that I think it's really going to assist the athletes. I hope that answered the question. So for yourself going forward, and again, I wanted to say thank you for your time on a Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it's about. You know, Pam had a few minutes off, and she gave, we came and stole an hour from her. So thank you for that. Anything that you would like to touch on and or share just as we start to wrap up?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Is there another question?
Yeah, sure.
Uh,
Yeah, what has Samantha been up to? Has she been behaving? I just.
oh, Sam. She's always trouble. No, she's been quite busy. She just ran, so this far this year, hosted two local meets.
Sure.
She did one in January, and her and the other meet director, Tim, I had reached out to them to see if potentially we could get an extra meet up in Edmonton for the spring. Get a
Mhm.
few more lifters through, qualified, give them
Right.
opportunity to qualify for provincials, get on that competition pathway, to
Mm.
eventually get to nationals. But so they stepped up. So within 2 months, they hosted two local meets.
Oh, wow.
So very thankful and grateful to them for that. And I mean, you can definitely see the excitement of the lifters of, everyone that competes, but they always do a really good job. And like I say, she's busy organizing now, switched over to organizing provincials with
Sure.
the three other meet directors, and she's prepping for Bench World. So she's quite busy
Yep.
and that. But and then of course APU executive.
Mm.
She's our treasurer, so she looks after all the financial side, and she's one of my right hands, and very grateful to have her on board with us with the exec as well.
It's really cool to see. And, you guys are such a wonderful example of what can be done with the sport, what can be done to grow the sport, and just that, it's
Mhm.
awesome people that are getting involved and stepping up into these positions. And that's something that really,
Yep.
really has to happen because the sport doesn't
Mhm.
grow automatically. The sport grows through efforts like
No.
that you put in, your team puts in, your whole federation put in. And it's great to see.
Mhm. Well, I was quite terrified stepping into my position. I think I did shut down for probably about a month or so after going, I'm way over my head. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna do so bad. But I think I found it took a few months and I started finding my groove.
Mm.
And then I needed to learn to find balance.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because I do have a full-time career. You're trying to run meets as well, and then there's the executive, but I'm also an athlete. And then you start putting yourself on the back burner, which is I was doing. And it's
Mm.
something I'm trying not to do now. I'm focusing and I'm benching 4 days a week.
Awesome.
I'm adding back in a leg day now to try and build back some strength, of course, with the injury and that. But yeah, just remember, you're still a volunteer.
Yeah.
We all, we have lives outside of powerlifting too, and just finding that right balance. Because burnout, it's there. It can happen and it can happen fast. And I've been there where, it's like I've just almost shut down and, don't want to leave, don't want to go anywhere. It's like I go to work and it's back on the couch. And so getting myself out of that rut, getting back to the gym, and then it's connecting with, the people that you train with, and it really helps. But understanding, you are a volunteer too when you're in, like, especially in my position, that you definitely makes time for yourself and your own health, your mental well-being. Um, and that, because yeah, when you hit that burnout, it's not good.
Mm-mm.
Right. So this year is big changes.
Okay. Good.
Definitely trying to make more time for myself, my own health, my own training, my own goals, and that, but still, trying to do the best that I can for their sport
For the
in the
sport. Sure.
province.
So I have to tell you, you're looking fantastic. You're glowing, and you're looking healthy and happy, which
Thank you.
which is awesome to see, and it's really great to see. And sure, it's some very solid
Yeah.
advice to sort of to finish the podcast on, because coming to don't be afraid to step into the role, but also make sure that you're looking
Mhm.
after yourself so you can give the most
Exactly.
to the role, to yourself, to your life, to everything outside of
Mhm.
powerlifting. Yeah, and apparently there is stuff outside of powerlifting. People have told me. I know.
Yes. Right. A lot of lifters, we get older, you start having families, you may have kids, right? Making sure that you're still making time for them
Mm,
too. And but yeah, definitely not losing yourself.
yeah,
Right.
not
I think
losing
that
yourself.
was a big thing that I had to learn. And I don't know if it was the injury that, partially set the fire of, okay, now I'm gonna get in, the best shape I can. Because
Mm-hmm.
every year I tell myself, okay, I got to do this. This is where I want to be. And I just never get there. And I yo-yo between, weight classes, and then, I cut down, and then you're way back up again. And so it's just been a huge shift. And then Sam and Brian have been huge supporters, great support. And we always, even though we don't train together in person, well, Brian and I started to do a little bit more because we're both in Calgary, but we'll train, and all of a sudden you finish the set. It's like you're sending it in a group chat. So having that support group
Mm-hmm.
behind you, it's been really good as well. But yeah, definitely make sure you always still take time to look after yourself. I would say that burnout, it's not good. And a lot of us that are in these executive roles, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it can get quite overwhelming in the things that come your way. So just managing to still, like I say, look after yourself.
And I think on that note, which I'd like to add something to that, is if you're a younger lifter or even a more experienced lifter and you're at a meet and something is messed up or something's gone wrong, be kind in how you speak to the executive, how you speak to the volunteers, how you speak to the officials, how
Yes.
you speak to the referees. You know, just be
Mm-hmm.
kind because they're there on a volunteer basis. And
100%.
we had father and son threatened. I don't know if I was supposed to talk about this, but I'm going to anyway because it affected me directly. They threatened to sue the federation because they missed the cutoff date. Now, South Africa, you got
Mm.
like 3 months to apply or, or whatever. And they missed the
Yeah.
cutoff date and said, well, we're going to sue and we're going to. And the guys in the
Mm-hmm.
fair, like, we don't have the resources, the energy, or the time for this. And what happened
Yeah.
was, who was doing the weigh-ins? Me. Now you wake up at 6 o'clock. You can only have lifting starts at 8. The weigh-ins at 6. Lifting starts at 8. You
Yeah.
can't go for breakfast until 7 o'clock. So, and you have to be on
Mm-hmm.
platform at 7:30. So and then they never pitched like intentionally. They
Yeah.
got let in, like, so, like, I was grumpy, hey, and like, don't, you're doing that to a complete stranger who's a volunteer. So my message is, be kind
Mm-hmm.
to your executive when you talk to them.
Yeah.
They're not, listen, you should be kind to a paid employee, but they're not paid employees. They're volunteers, and be kind, be
Yeah.
respectful. And if you're not happy with how things are, volunteer your time, step in and offer to help.
100%. It's the same thing if you're not happy with policies, or,
Mm.
how certain things are. It's, instead of going right to social media and jumping
Yeah.
on that horn, it's reach out to your executive, right? We have our AGMs every year. Submit your proposals of, what you think something should be changed to. And it's funny how many people don't,
Yeah.
right? Or they don't join the AGM, right? And so, trying to get more people actively involved in that part, as opposed to just, like say, going right on social media and just, and we're not perfect. We make mistakes.
Mm.
We're human. There's still things sometimes, oh, that was an error. Okay, oops. Right.
Yeah.
Someone, you do like a certain list of something or whatever at the end of the year, but yeah, no, it's I think part of it is a younger generation too. But I mean, when they get involved in sport, they learn more. Although 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I was reffing at a meet, and it was a coach
Mm.
who I don't know necessarily understood the rules enough, but trying to contest a lift that was 3 red lights, things like that.
Wait, what?
We didn't have it. We don't have jury when we have
Yeah,
local
yeah.
meets, so it's kind of especially if it's 3 reds.
No, exactly.
But it was
And the announcer gave a
not
red,
very
so it
kind
was for
towards our
uh,
table, our score table, and not
really.
very kind towards referees as well. So we still see that. So there's,
Mm.
some work that needs to be done, things communicated that, like we do want everyone to be treated with 100% respect,
Yeah,
and understanding that, we are all volunteers, and we are giving our time to, um, allow a lifter, have that opportunity to step on a platform and lift.
that's it. And I think everybody the foundation is judge the lift, not the lifter. And you do
Mhm.
everything in the lifter's favor that, the lifter gets the benefit of the doubt. But, we
Exactly. The
tired
lifter has
and
three
it,
white
yeah,
lights
yeah.
unless they do something wrong,
Yeah, that's it.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And if do not, and this is me being where's my knife? I'm threatening South African. So do not go after the referees and do not moan at the competition organizers. I'm getting very angry with this. Do not moan about the
Mhm.
fact that there's no jury if you're not putting in your
Yeah.
time as a referee. If you're not a ref,
Yeah.
and if you're not refereeing at least 20% of a competition, and I mean that seriously,
Mhm.
because everybody,
Yeah.
forget about the fact you're a coach or you're a this or you're that. You got a ref because it's going to make you a better coach. And so don't moan about the fact that there's not a jury if you're not willing to step
Mhm.
up. You want to moan about it? Become a referee, get on the jury.
Yeah.
Sorry, get
Yeah.
quite
And the
angry
other thing
about
is,
that.
as a lifter is
Mm.
another thing as a lifter, we say, okay, 3 red lights until you do something wrong. I mean, I had challenges in South Africa with the new bench depth rule.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's a perfect example. That first
Short
season,
arms.
that first season
I
of
had
lifting.
jury
Yeah,
overturns
yeah.
and that. So, one comment that it was the very first international comp with that new rule.
Yes, it was.
And, for me,
Yeah.
elbows were a little high. So, I believe what Shane Martin
Mm,
had said was, just make it undeniable. Train and make it undeniable.
that's
So in your training, work on it, get it to where there is no doubt, there's no benefit of the doubt. For me, it's depth. So it's adjusting my bench. I was stubborn, didn't want to do it.
I'll show
Didn't
them.
want to have the narrow grip,
Yeah,
didn't want to drop the arch,
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
want to do any of
yeah.
that. But it's taken a while, and I'd lost some strength with it.
Mm,
And of course, I'm also was better than I used to be, inconsistent with my training or take months off at a time. Doing better.
yep,
But yeah, it's training to the point where it's undeniable. So when you
that's
go
it.
into
Love
comp,
that.
you're hitting depth, right? Whether it's the squat,
Mm,
whether it's the bench, right? If you're someone who's deadlift and you have a habit of hitching, work on it in your training. So when you go to comp, you're not
mm,
running into the issue. So yeah, I mean, that was, he kind of said, make it undeniable. So that's something I strive for with bench
yeah,
for classic was, okay, elbow depth. All right, how do I get it to where I hit depth every single time?
that's it.
And the big thing was recording from the front of the rack.
Mm.
So I don't record from the side. I don't have an issue with my butt coming up, things like that. It's, am I consistently hitting elbow depth
Yeah,
every single rep, every single set? And thankfully, we're there.
I
At
love it.
least I think. Yeah, we're there.
Yeah,
But
excess
yeah, it's
inches.
yeah,
That's
that's
it.
good advice.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And I do remember that. And just think like it was just being, and I was able to be TC. So
You were
I,
my
I
TC.
could
That's right.
hear everything that was going on. And it is just like, listen, I got to tell you, my favorite comp of all time being TC then as a national
Yeah.
referee to be TC. It was like, oh,
Mm.
this is heaven. I learned so much. But yeah, get that, get excess inches. That's what you got to do. Just make
Yeah.
the lift as easy as possible to pass. So 100%. So as
Yeah.
we have like 2 minutes left. Pam, thank you. And I'm glad we got to finish on this point as well. That, if you're a young lifter, we understand thing, but understand that everybody there is volunteering for you. No one's being
Yeah.
paid. And if you're not happy, get
Exactly.
involved. That's it. Go to your AGMs.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to write stuff down, and don't put it on social media, send it to your executive. They will listen and they will
Yeah.
hear what you are saying. So that's absolutely, absolutely fantastic
Absolutely.
advice, Pam. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
Okay. Well, it's been fun. I'm really hope we'll see you in May.
Yeah, me too. No, I got
Yeah,
it. I
it'd be
got it. I
great
got it.
to
I got it. I
catch
got it. I
up.
got it. I got it. So yeah.
We'll all be there.
I'm very, very, very. Look at me. I'm like, yay, gotta go. No, it was it really,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. Even last year, I asked if you would be in Austin. You're like, no. I
yeah.
was like, darn.
So I will say, I mean, you know what happened with Austin quickly last year was one of my coaches. I wanted to send one of my academy development coaches to go with the
Yes.
athlete, and really it was a life-changing event for him. The fact that he's moaning at me that he's
Oh,
got a
yeah.
3-hour, 4-hour layover in Paris. Like, you bastard.
Yeah. Austin was
Epic.
really good. It was
Awesome.
a fabulously run.
Yeah.
Well,
Comp.
worlds,
Yeah.
bench worlds. But again, it's a team. We have such a really great team of everyone across Canada, and definitely looking excited. Very much excited for Norway.
Yeah. It's
We're
good.
all pretty pumped to go over there.
It's gonna be epic. So just thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Wish you and your team and Team Canada all the best at World Bench. You're just the very, very best guys. Absolutely love you guys. I've met the most wonderful communities and countries and just groups of athletes in this wonderful sport. It's not something I could ever have even dreamed of. But Pam, thank you. And you are a very, very special part of that. When we were starting out the podcast, you were there at the beginning, giving us names, dragging people. The one you dragged by the ankle, I think. And
They're all going to come to me now and be like, "What are you doing, Pam?"
yeah, I just got a message from Nick on Instagram
They can
again.
always say no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they could.
It did take you a few months to get me on.
Yeah, yeah. we worked, yeah. And we're getting Samantha on again, aren't we? And Brian.
Yes.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I think
Sometime you got to get the three of us on the same time,
yes,
because that will be
please.
quite
That
interesting.
will be absolutely. Listen, I've got a Roadcaster Pro here. I bought a very cool suitcase to transport it internationally. Not anything, but those
Okay.
old Pilot aluminium cases. I think it was like $12
Yeah.
in a secondhand store. So it's great. So I got to get there. I'm working on it really hard. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys, and
All
got to
right.
get
Well, hopefully we'll see
the
you.
three of you guys on. I mean that's it, 100%. Awesome, Pam.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I'm going to end the podcast, and I'll just chat to you quickly off air. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Nick.
Cool.